Hare Krishna devotees. We'll start with Jai Radha Madhava. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Dhira Vanachari Yamuna Dhira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Dhira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Dhira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. जय राधा गोपी जन वल्लभ, राधा गोपी जन वल्लभ, श्री राधे। जय राधा गोपी जन वल्लभ, राधा गोपी जन वल्लभ, श्री राधे। जय निताय पतित पावन गौर हरि, जय निताय पतित पावन गौर हरि। जय निताय पतित पावन गौर हरि, जय निताय पतित पावन गौर हरि। जय प्रभुपदा, जय प्रभुपदा, जय प्रभुपदा, श्रीला प्रभुपदा। Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnu. Acharya Stotra Jai Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivachika Acharya Stotra Sata Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ananta Koti Vaishnava. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled. All glories to all glories, all glories. Sri Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Bhagavatam, 4th chapter, 7th canto, 9th verse. Correct? 4th canto. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 4th canto, 7th chapter, 9th verse. Sandhiyamane sirasi daksho rudrabhivikshitaha sadhya sukta ivothastho dadrase chagrato mrudam sandhiyamane sirasi daksho rudrabhivikshitaha sadhya supta ivothastha dadrase chagrato mrudam. Want to read, Prabhu? Sirasi. Sandhyamani sirasi. Daksho rudra vivikshita. Sadhya sukta yotastata. Astau. Dadrase chagrato mrudam. Sanyamane sirasi daksho rudra vivikshitaha atyasukta yotasto Sandhiyamani sirasi dadro rudra vivikshitaha atyasukta yotasto dadrase chakrato mridam. Anyone? Sandhiyamani, being executed. Sirasi, by the head. Daksha, King Daksha. Rudrabhi vikshitaha, having been seen by Rudra. Lord Shiva. Sadhya, Immediately. Supte. Sleeping. Iva. Like. Utasthav. Awakened. Dadrase. Sa. Cha. Also. Agrataha. In front. Mridam. Lord Shiva. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, translation: when the animal's head was fixed on the body of King Daksha, Daksha was immediately brought to consciousness. And as he awakened from sleep, the king saw Lord Shiva standing before him. Purport: the example given here is that Daksha got up as if he were awakened from deep sleep. In Sanskrit, this is called Supta Yuvatastav. The meaning is that after a man awakens from sleep, he immediately remembers all the duties which he must execute. Daksha was killed, and his head was taken away and burned to ashes. His body was lying dead, but by the grace of Lord Shiva, as soon as the head of a goat was joined to the body, Daksha came back to consciousness again. This indicates that consciousness is also individual. Daksha actually took another body when he took on the head of a goat. But because consciousness is individual, his consciousness remained the same, although his bodily condition changed. This bodily construction has nothing to do with the development of consciousness. Consciousness is carried with the transmigration of the soul. There are many instances of this in Vedic history, such as the case of Maharaj Bharata. After quitting his body as a king, Maharaj Bharata was transferred to the body of a deer, but he retained the same consciousness. He knew that although formerly he was King Bharata, he had been transferred to the body of a deer because of his absorption in thinking of a deer at the time of his death. In spite of his having a body of a deer, however, his consciousness was as good as it was in the body of King Bharata. The arrangement by the Lord is so nice that if a person's consciousness is turned into Krishna consciousness, there is no doubt that in his next life, he will be a great devotee of Krishna, even if he is offered a different type of body. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं सदा ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधां कृष्णपदान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिकान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय। वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे। So today we are going to read this verse from chapter 7. I would like to thank Vikal Kishore Prabhuji and Shyam Kishore Prabhuji for giving this opportunity to talk on this subject. It is a very, very important and critical subject here regarding the consciousness. So I don't have much of knowledge to explain the real meaning of this verse, but I will try my best with the blessings of the senior Vaishnavas and my Guru Maharaj. So one more time, I think the translation, when the animal's head was fixed on the body of King Daksha, Daksha was immediately brought to consciousness. And as he awakened from sleep, the king saw Lord Shiva standing before him. So Prabhupada gave a wonderful purport here regarding consciousness. So the body of Daksha is still intact without the head. Then Lord Shiva took a goat's head and he attached it to the body of Daksha. So, I was kind of trying to find out, we have now what is called transplantation. Various organs can be transplanted. So nowadays they transplant heart, they transplant liver, they transplant kidneys. So there are different types of transplantations. Here, there was a much bigger transplantation going on. It's the head. So I was actually doing some research about this. Is it possible to transplant the brain? I was reading some of the neurosurgery articles. So far, the scientists, they were not able to do it. And there are various reasons, technical reasons. From a medical standpoint, medical science standpoint, they tried multiple times doing this, the brain transplant. It was very difficult. The reason being, there were so many nerves they have to attach from taking out the brain and putting a new brain into the body. It is, at least for the time being, it is humanly impossible. But they did try what Lord Shiva did here. They actually tried to transplant the head itself. Back in 1908, his name is Alex Carroll. He got a Nobel Prize for that, actually. In 1912, he got Nobel Prize. So his work was vascular suture, the transplantation of blood vessels and organs. That is what they gave the Nobel Prize for him. It was attempted in 1908, and he and one other surgeon, Charles Guthrie, they transplanted a dog's head into another dog. It survived for a few hours, and then, it passed away. And after that, it kind of helped, whatever work he did, it helped actually for all the different transplantations they are doing now. And in 1954, there is another Soviet scientist. His name is Vladimir Dimitrov. He experimented with dogs again and again. It was kind of failed. They tried it, but they failed again. Recently, 2015 in China, they tried again, attaching one animal's head to another animal, this time with mice. They were successful with that. So this transplantation of head is, going on for many millennials. But now we are kind of reinventing and finding, we are trying to figure out the art of it. But here, when you transplant a head, so really what is happening? You have brain in the head, you have all the different types of organs, like your nose, your ears, and whatnot. You are trying to do that, but are you really transplanting the consciousness, or just the brain part of it? So brain and consciousness, they are two different entities, two different things. Right now, um, I attended one business conference in Dallas just before the COVID hit us back in 2019. So during that business conference, they invited Michio Kaku. He is the Nobel laureate theoretical physicist. He explained in the next 20 years what happens with the technology, and what happens with the research in consciousness, research in brain, on the brain, as well as some of the AI technology that will be developed. So he was kind of a futurist. They call scientists who can kind of look into 20, 30, 40 years, and they can actually predict what is going to happen. So he mentioned in that conference one very interesting thing. He said that we will get digital immortality. Of course, it is not body's immortality, but digital immortality. What does that mean is all your brain signals, synapses, and all the different signals going in your brain, they all can be downloaded into a hard drive, and they can store it. So after you pass away, they can actually create a person who can exactly think like you, and who can answer questions. Your great grandchildren, they can interact with that person, and they can actually have a one-on-one conversation. So that is what he meant by digital immortality. So we are kind of heading into that. As we see, for the past 3 years, we have all this AI technology coming in, and there is a chatter behind the scenes. We don't know how much it is true that actually there is a fully developed consciousness behind that technology, and people are kind of really interested in that. It is kind of going to such an extent that at one point of time in future, you will have exactly a replica of yourself, and people cannot distinguish exactly who are the real you versus that replica of that. So they are kind of trying to mitigate how you can distinguish between the two personalities. You will have the same person, exactly the same. You will be talking in the same voice. Your features will be the exact same features. And now you have to identify, is this person the real person, or is this created by a AI technology bot or a robot? So, I don't know how many of you know Sam Altman. He is the OpenAI CEO. He is the person actually who is behind ChatGPT. Whoever is using ChatGPT, they know that name. And he actually invented all this. And now he is saying, I will create another company. And that I think there is, it's kind of jotted down. There is the name for that company also. It is WorldCoin is the name of the company. He's set up that. And the purpose of that company is to prove your personhood, proof of personhood. That means you are the real person. So for that, what they do is they created this wonderful uh, kind of a device. They call it as orb. You go in front of that orb and you put your face in front of it. It will scan your iris. Within your eye, you have a uniquely developed Krishna's magic iris. It is out of 7 billion people, you will not have that signature in the iris what you have. So they will scan it and they will store it. And when this issue comes up where, two people show up at the same time, who is the real person here? Then they can actually tell which person is the real person. So this is what is going on technologically. But this person who the AI technology is going to develop, or whoever it is going to, manifest in the future, that person will not have consciousness. That is what Prabhupada is saying in this purport. You cannot create consciousness. Consciousness is individual. And that consciousness cannot be replicated, cannot be manufactured. So that is the whole purport of this thing. So here we are looking at a historical event that took place, and in this historical event, there is a dead body, and then there is a sacrificial animal, and both were combined together. But the brain of that goat is not the real consciousness. There is no intelligence, there is no consciousness there that is coming from the brain of that goat. The brain is only a medium of expressing your desires. You have your mind. The brain kind of can think about some desires. It can kind of imagine certain things, and it can manifest your desires. But consciousness is much higher, and consciousness is the symptom of soul. So people will ask, okay, let's prove that a person has a soul. You cannot see the soul because it is very, very small, tip of one tenth part of 1/10,000 part of tip of your hair. And you cannot manifest it because it is spiritual. It is not really material. But how you can know that you have soul in your body? It is the symptoms are manifested as part of the consciousness. And so the body goes through life and death. That cycle, birth and death cycle is there. But when you think about the consciousness can spread. You have the super soul has the consciousness. And Krishna says, you have the body, and within the body, you have the knower of the body. If you can know both the things, the body and the knower of the body, that is the real knowledge. Okay? So the soul can express itself. The soul can express with the consciousness of, if you have a soul in an animal, the soul cannot fully express itself, because a human body can express itself in terms of the art or philosophy or religion. But the same consciousness, the dog has also a soul. The dog has also consciousness, but that consciousness is not really spread to the level of this different faculties, like the religious activities or philosophical activities. It cannot express itself as drawing some type of an art. that expression of soul is not part of the animalistic bodies. So here we have a story that Prabhupada gave regarding King Bharat. King Bharat, he takes vanaprastha, and he renounces everything. He goes to the forest, and he was living there. And then in the forest, he sees a deer, and he kind of attaches himself to that activities of that deer, and kind of that attachment, um, when he dies, he takes the body of a deer. So what is, although he is a highly elevated soul, the soul has that, because of that attachment to the deer, in the next birth, he was born as a deer. So here, the soul, they usually compare it to sky. In the sky, you see the sky now, it's cloudy. After 1 hour, the sky will have, it may be raining. After 1 hour, it may be having lightning. After another 1 hour, it may be completely clear. So there are a lot of activities going on within that sky, but the sky remains the same. There is no change in the sky. Similarly, it is the same thing with the soul also. There are certain activities going on, and the soul is out there. If the activities are getting involved, if the soul is getting involved with the activities, getting attached to those activities, then you will have the problem of this repeated birth and death. So it can identify with activities, it can identify with certain desires, whatever is the issue is. When someone asks us, who are you? We identify with a name, we identify with a position, we identify with certain things in life, but really we are not those, because those things are changing on a day-to-day basis. Every day, you will have one position, the next day you will have a different position. Your name can be changed very easily. Your social security number, it can be changed. There are a lot of instances where people's social security number changes. So what is the ultimate thing you can identify with, which is not changing? That only one thing is that you are the servant of Krishna, and you are here to serve. That is the only thing you can attach. Everything else is temporary, or everything else is constantly changing. There is no permanence. And when in your human form, the advantage of the human form, where the soul is in a human body, is because of that intelligence, you can kind of achieve that thought process, or you can have that realization, so that you can have the next goal of your life would be, you have to serve, serve, serve. That is the only thing that is remaining, and the rest of the things, they are all mere endeavors. So you have so many endeavors in your life. So when you are born, you want to kind of grow up as a child. The next endeavor is, I want to get into a school. The next endeavor is, I want to get into a college. Next endeavor is, I want to get a job. These are all endeavoring to achieve certain things. But are you really going to be happy with those type of endeavors? No. But they are essential. We are not saying that you should not get education, you should not go to the college, but you should have that knowledge in your always in your mind. All these things what I am doing, is to achieve a higher goal. Prabhupada always says, what is your highest goal in your life? Usually we ask kids, what do you want to become? That's a very common question we ask kids, and they say, I want to become this, this, right? But the intelligence, the actual real intelligence is, yes, you have certain steps you have to go through your life, but what is your ultimate goal? And that is what is the soul can experience when you are not attaching activities to the soul. You are just doing the activities for the sake of doing it, but you are not getting attached. So that is what Bhagavad Gita in chapter 2 also, Krishna says to Arjuna that you have to do these activities, but don't get attached to the activities, because you are working on what is called spiritual platform. So when Prabhupada talks, most of the lectures, he says Krishna instructed Arjuna to work on spiritual platform. What exactly that really mean? Spiritual platform means. So spiritual platform means, you have to do your activities, but how you can withdraw from the results of those activities. So that is something that we have to kind of practice. The way we have to practice it is, number one, associating with the devotees. Number two, reading the scriptures. Number three is chanting. So those are the three main principles you have to follow, because you have to get knowledge. So this is Bhagavatam is knowledge, Bhagavad Gita is knowledge. But after you get the knowledge, it should be practiced. How you practice it is very important. So I was reading Life Comes from Life. There is a small book that Prabhupada had multiple conversations with his disciples. And it's very interesting. The very first chapter in that book, Prabhupada starts it's kind of morning walks. They go with Prabhupada for morning walks. And Prabhupada asks, the very first question he asks is, okay, is life coming from matter, or is matter coming from life? How they are proving? You are telling me the scientists are saying it is the life is coming from matter. How they are proving? Explain it to me. Because he was talking with one of the scientist disciples, and he was having that conversation. And they published all these conversations together. They published it as one book. Very, very interesting book. It's very enlightening to read it. It is not like Prabhupada is challenging the current scientific thought process. He is saying, yes, the science has done some improvements. As I explained a couple of few minutes back, this thing, this event happened long back. But now scientists are trying to recreate the same thing, attaching a body, transplanting a head to a body and whatnot. But the knowledge we have in scriptures is much more advanced. That is what Prabhupada was trying to explain or establish, that you have Bhagavatam going all the way back to millennia, thousands of years back. All these things happened, and also Bhagavatam has all the future events that are going to happen. So you have the complete set of things laid out in Bhagavatam. Some people will say, I don't believe in this. What are you talking here? Does this really happen? Like thousands of years back, how you can prove it to me, right? And some people will say this Bhagavatam came into being only a few hundred years back, or Bhagavatam came into being only 100 200 years. Bhagavad Gita came into being only 100 200 years back. So someone wrote it. It is not coming from Vyasadeva. And how you can predict the future. You have all the events that are explained in Bhagavatam going into hundreds of years into future also. How I know they are all going to be true or not? So the answer to that question is this knowledge was shared, from centuries and centuries and centuries, from one generation to another generation. I was visiting Konark Sun Temple in 2015 or 2016. I took my kids also there. And when you go there, that temple was constructed in the 12th century. And you see a big plaque in the front of the temple. Did someone go, anyone here visited Konark Temple, Sun Temple? And it was destroyed by a Muslim king. But, you have the structure, the main temple structure and whatnot. And you have wonderful rock carvings throughout it's a huge, huge temple. And one of the carvings there, and before I say that, one of the rules for Government of India, Archaeological Society of India, ASI, they have a rule that, all these monuments, if they were destroyed, they were, in a dilapidated condition, they will try to restore it. But if something is destroyed, they don't try to reconstruct it. They will keep it as is. So one of the huge, there is a huge chakra in one of the walls, and it depicts all the Dasavatars. They kind of carved all the Dasavatars. I actually took a picture of all that one also. So you have the entire Bhagavatam actually kind of explained in some of those pictures there. Last July, I went to New York. In New York, there is a New York Museum. It's one of the famous museums in New York. And there is a separate section in New York for South Asian artifacts. So they have collected all these artifacts. They were not even in this BC era. It goes back to almost 3,000 years. They have certain artifacts. Some of the artifacts are from Pakistan and Afghanistan. And they have a Krishna's deity that they actually recovered from Pakistan. They have it there. So all these events have happened. People have this knowledge transferred from one generation to another generation. It is just because Prabhupada always says that just because the science is not able to prove it now doesn't mean it doesn't happen in future, or the science is not going into future and looking into these type of things. They cannot deny that this is not going to happen. So there is one famous scientist, Louis Pasteur. Actually, his quote was part of that book also I was referring to. And he says, based on the knowledge of biology, physics, and whatever you currently have, you cannot say what you will be discovering 10,000 years later. You cannot limit yourself. That is the basic premise of science, that you cannot say, this is what I found. Something is not going to be developed as a theory or whatever it is in future, right? So when Einstein, he discovered the theory of relativity in 1920s. They came up with, in 1930s, they came up with quantum mechanics, quantum physics. He was so shocked. He was the one of the geniuses, we can kind of think of. He was so perturbed or disturbed by that finding, because it went against all the things he thought about. It was kind of a blow to his false ego. And he said, no, this is not possible. I am not accepting this. But it has been developed for the past 60 years, and now people accept quantum physics as a bona fide theory. So the point I'm making is, when you have certain things that people don't accept. Number one, they don't accept soul. Number two, they don't accept transmigration. They have to kind of come back to the thought process. Do I have that type of intelligence even to kind of think about it, right? That is the intelligence that, Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam that we are giving. We are very fortunate that we have so many publications or so many books that Prabhupada gifted us, giving that knowledge and making sure that we are understanding in a very, very finer way, very subtle way, because this is a science. Prabhupada always says Bhagavatam is not a book. It is a pure science that you have to think logically, you have to understand logically, you have to ask questions. That way, I think you will get to the bottom of it. Otherwise, you will keep endeavoring. Endeavoring is good. Some people will say, if I don't endeavor, if I don't endeavor to get a good job, I don't endeavor to get into a good house, I don't endeavor in getting good education, then what's the point of living? There is no point of just being living and not endeavoring. So what Prabhupada says is, you have to endeavor for the right things, right? Yesterday I was watching Prabhuji there taking pictures of deities, and there is a method for that, right? So he's kind of instructing Prabhu, you take this picture like this picture like that, right? He is endeavoring too, but he is endeavoring to please Krishna. You both are working as a team to do that endeavor, right? That is permanent. Whereas, you kind of endeavor for a physical thing, a material thing, and that is very temporary, transitory. So I will stop here. I think it's 9:20. Anyone have any questions online or here? It's a very deep subject regarding consciousness, and there are a lot of discussions or events that happened here in this chapter. It was a ghastly scene, right? People are getting killed, people are getting their heads got severed. So one of the lectures I was hearing, why Bhagavatam is giving that type of description, giving very detailed description of those ghastly incidents. And Pankajangri Prabhu, he is actually Pujari of Mayapur. He passed away during COVID period. I was hearing his lecture, and he was saying, if you don't explain things like that, sometimes things don't get into your mind. So sometimes you have to, create some type of very intense feeling or intense situation so that people can understand. Because how many times Prabhupada explained in Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita purports, you are not this body, you are a spirit soul. How many times? Maybe hundreds of times. But I'm talking about myself. I still don't have that realization. I'm reading books, but I don't have that realization all the time. When I'm reading the books, yes, I understand. This is what it is. But when you fully absorb it and when you fully remember it 24/7, that is what is self-realization is. So until that point, you have to keep hammering that. And the way you have to understand is looking at uh, some of these incidents, historical incidents, and try to understand um, that the two stories here is, one is King Bharat, and the other one is Daksha's beheading and getting a new head. In both the cases, I think Prabhupada is establishing there is consciousness, number one. Number two, it is individual. Everyone has their individual consciousness. So that is very important to understand.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Go ahead, Prabhu. Life comes from life. Do we have that book, Prabhu, here? Life comes from life? Okay. Yeah. I think it is available online also. Life comes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anyone online have any questions? Prabhuji's, Mataji's? Otherwise, we can end the class.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji. Hang on 1 second. Let me. Yes, please go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranams. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, very nice class today. How you connected the points, especially in the beginning when you spoke about AI and the conference, and how you connected it with consciousness, that it's so individual, that is given by Krishna. That was an amazing point, Prabhuji. When I was hearing the class, I just remembered an incident that happened yesterday. I was talking with my daughter, and she was explaining to me about how the disease of gout develops in human body because of increased uric crystals and uric acid. And she gave me so many, she was talking so many things. Then in the end I asked her, so um, why does it happen? She said that there are so many reasons, so many things happen in the body, and that is not there. So that yesterday night when I went to bed, I was thinking, so everything we there is no harm in science, there is no harm in learning about the medical process and everything, but after a certain point, everybody in their life will realize that there is an end point beyond which we cannot go, beyond which medical science cannot go. And it's not something major. Even small things that happen in the human body, there is no answer to that, concrete, definitive answer. So that made me think, why, even after seeing this, after 40, 45, everybody's body gives trouble, and these realizations come to human beings, but still the conditioning is so hard that I'm talking about myself, we cannot rise above the bodily platform. We cannot accept the supremacy of Krishna. We cannot accept that this is just one human form of life that we have taken for 60, 70 years, and this is just a stoppage in our journey, but our ultimate goal is somewhere else. So this was such an amazing class that you gave, Prabhuji. I really want to share it with my children. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Thanks for sharing your realization also. Any other questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandot Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada. That was an amazing class, Prabhu. I really, really, appreciated this class. The highlight of this class for me was you cannot create consciousness in lab. Only Krishna can create that. That was such an amazing point that you made, and so many other various points. But that was the highlight for me. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah. Yeah, I think Prabhupada made that point maybe 1,000 times in his books. If you look at Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, this was kind of hammered again and again and again. And he knows why he is repeating it also. I remember Gopal Krishna Maharaj came here, my Guru Maharaj came here in 2017, I think. He gave the class, and one Prabhu asked, Maharaj, I am reading Bhagavatam, and there is a lot of repetition in Bhagavatam. Even in purports also, one purport, I read another purport. I think it is a repetition of the previous purport. So why is that? Why Prabhupada arranged the knowledge in such a way? Then Maharaj's answer to that was, you have to hammer a point and the audience. He knows the audience. I am talking about myself. I cannot understand a point until I read it multiple times. So he is giving that facility in the books to read it over and over and over again, so that you can understand the point. It is just like in your high school, you have a very difficult subject. What is your teacher's advice to you, when you have a very difficult subject? He or she can explain to certain extent. But after that, it is your endeavor. You have to read the book over and over again to understand that subject, right? And here, what is the subject we are talking? It is the topmost. It is going to define your ultimate goal of your life. So you have to endeavor more. There is a question, if there is an endeavor, material endeavor is there, and then there is a spiritual endeavor. So why I need to endeavor, you are saying the material endeavors are waste of time, and the spiritual endeavor is what is going to benefit you, right? And it is going to give you what is going to be the permanent thing in your life. So you have to shift slowly. We are not saying don't endeavor for material things. They are necessary to lead life in this world. But slowly, gradually, you have to shift the intensity of that endeavor from material things to spiritual things. That is a thing that every individual has to make a decision. How much quickly I can kind of do that shifting from material to the spiritual endeavors. So Prabhupada says, when you train kids, at a very young age, at 5 years to 10 years old, you kind of ingrain that type of capability, so that it will stay with them throughout their life. And, when they kind of go to a certain stage, they can kind of really take off. So the perfect example, we have in Bhagavatam, so many examples there, Dhruva Maharaj. But that is very important. And unfortunately, when you go to a kindergarten school here in States, even in India nowadays, there is no type of no training like that. We are, ISKCON, we are very blessed that we have summer school, we have Sunday school here. People can come in, kids can come in, they can learn certain things. Of course, that knowledge will stay with them for their entire youth, as well as we are really proud that Gaurangi Mataji, she kind of conducts so many classes. She kind of takes care of Sunday school here. But when we started the Sunday school back in 2007 with Yugal Kishore Prabhuji's blessings, we had roughly 40 people, 40 kids. And he used to hammer one thing to me. Every time when he sees me, he used to ask only two questions. How is Sunday school? How is your sadhana? How is Sunday school? Those are the only two questions he used to ask. He put so much emphasis on that one, Sunday school. And that kind of, we can see all the kids who came from that Sunday school, now they are highly successful in their lives. And that knowledge stayed with them. So it is very important that, we kind of focus on kids' education also at a very young age. And, so many Matajis and, Gaurangi Mataji, she's kind of leading that effort here. But it is very important to continue that. Any other questions? Otherwise, we can end this class.
Doing it on your behalf. I'm really only doing it on your behalf. I always told you it is your thing that I am just filling in your shoes.
No, Mataji, you are putting so much effort into it. It's all Yugal Kishore Prabhuji's blessings and all the senior devotees' blessings here. Okay, we'll end it here. So thank you again, Prabhuji, for giving me this opportunity. And it is a very heavy subject. I tried to do my level best here to explain the underlying message here. So,
thank you very much, Hamsa and Nitai Prabhu. Very nice class. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hey, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Very nice class.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.